Alright, in this video we're going to look at how to create a material up style of animation. This is the ad icon over at material.uplabs.com. You can get a lot of cool ideas on how to create animations, and some of these can be not identical but pretty close if we create these in KLWP. And here's an example over here. So if I tap on this button, notice we do have that animation going on. Notice we do have the check. If I tap it again, it will close out and the burst does not come back. And that's maybe the issue that some of you are having if you're trying to do animations. Sometimes you don't want to something to reverse on you. I want that to go to a check, but when I reverse back, I don't want the burst to show, so to speak. That's something we're going to talk about in this video. And before I jump into that, let me go ahead and talk about this too. If you go over to my website, idomath.weebly.com/KLWP, what I'll have here, you can still fill in your request right here, but some of you are asking, how's the tutorial coming along, etc. Well, click on this right here and you can kind of see the queue that I have for KLWP videos, and I actually just got in 2 more this morning. But nonetheless, once this loads up, if it will load up, I want you to see that I haven't forgot about you. These are the ones that I'm going to do, and this is the order that I'm going to do them. So I'm doing this one right now, but as you can see, as I get them, I'll add them into here so you can kind of stay up to date to where you are in regards to the queue. For the most part, I will do these in order. Some of these may take a little bit more research, but then there's ones down here that people have requested. They could have been requested a week ago, a month ago, or several months ago. These are ones that I may do, and these are not in any particular order. I'm definitely going to do the raw text at some point. I'm just waiting for the new KLWP update to come out. Other things down here, fitness data, I don't use it. I actually use Endomondo, or however you say that, when I go out running. Other things down here too, so things I may do. I haven't forgot about you, so I got a name over here just to kind of say, okay, yeah, I do remember sending that, or just making sure. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. Doing these tutorials do take quite a bit of time on top of my regular 40, 50, 60-hour work week, teaching college classes at 2 different colleges. But nonetheless, just want to let you know you can see where you are in the queue line, so to speak. But back to this tutorial. If we look at this a little bit deeper, so I'm going to show you how to do this, how I have it set up. This will be shared on KLWP Toots as well. I've got a couple of globals in here. I got one switch. I got a couple of colors to keep everything kind of uniform, and then I have several number globals. This will just help you adjust and fine-tune your animations, like how fast do you want the thing to rotate, how fast do you want the burst to burst, that little red burst, and the amount, how much do you want it to actually burst out. Do you want it to be delayed? Yes, we do. Burst fade speed and burst fade delay, because you definitely want all these things to go on. That way it kind of maintains or you get this animation right here. So all that stuff we have going on. Now you can skip some of these steps, but if you start moving your icon around and stuff like that, if you don't maintain your circle size, when you start moving things around, it can be kind of hard to center it back up. So nonetheless, let's go ahead and go into KLWP and have a look at those globals first of all. I don't have them in the order that you see here, but as you can see, I have a burst color. That's that top one. I have a line color right there, and then I have a back and a back gradient. Now you don't necessarily have to create all those colors, but I did anyway, just to obtain this look here. The switch is right there. All this stuff operates on a switch. So the switch goes on, the animation occurs, the switch goes off, it goes back to the plus. Now the big and the small, the big is going to be, I don't know if you noticed there's a little ring around it, that's the big one, and then the small one, I can do this, there we go. So as you can see, I am kind of dragging this around, and where did I have this at? Around 250. Alright, the small, that's going to be actually this circle here. As you can see right there, that's the one that's on the inside. I had it around 230 just to kind of give it some effect. Alright, these are number global variables, by the way. And what other? The rotate speed, burst amount, all of these in here. The burst amount, I got it set from 0 to 100. The other ones are set from 0 to 10, but you can adjust those to your liking. Just to show you what I'm talking about, like the speed, for example, the rotate speed, I have it set from 0 to 10. So to show you how to change that, just in case you don't know, you can set the min and the max right there. And I have all these adjusted like that. So this is where you can come back, and once you create all this stuff, you can come back in here and fine tune all of these to get the animation to look how you want it to look, instead of going into each individual piece and adjusting each piece individually, which can be a little bit tedious the more you start using this app and the more you get used to things. So let's go to each piece one by one. Let's start with the burst. And right now I'm going to position, right now it's in the center, but I'm going to put it up at the top. So you don't see anything right now because of the animation that's going on. But if I go back into burst, I have two things inside of it. I have a big and I have it set to clear. Basically, I have, you see this gray ring right back here? I have that same circle sitting inside of here because if I go moving things around, it will keep everything centered. I think that's very important. You can't see the circle. It has nothing to do with the animation, but that's that big circle, notice, is set to 250. That's just set so that whatever else I put inside of here and I go and move these things around, everything will stay uniform. That's an important piece when you're creating some of these animations that have multiple layers. And then I have a progress, and in this progress I should cut that up to 100. I have it set to repeat shapes. You can click as many sections as you want, but let's just look at it again real quick. This is the animation that's going on up here, and it's the progress that's making this happen. So let's do this again. You see the circles kind of come in and out. Let me zoom in on that. Is that going to let me click the button? Okay, I can't see the button anymore. Tough. Alright, so boom, you see the circles. But we can repeat shapes. We can add more sections to it if we want. I'm going to add 50 sections. Watch what happens when I animate it now. You can't even see all the circles because they're so small. Let me bump that down a little bit. Let me go down to 30. Let's see if we can see that. You see those circles animating? Let me save this, go back to the home screen. So now I have it up here, the animation goes away, and now you can actually see this, but I originally have it hidden behind all this stuff. The burst is the first thing I'm creating. Notice it's just kind of like animating those circles out. So how am I animating that? Even though this thing is a switch, you don't have to animate it. Well, let me talk about some other things too. Style, oh yeah, very important. So we want a circular style, whatever shape you want. I chose circles. Those are little circles that we're animating out. And the size of that thing, I made it roughly, you can do 75%, you can do 50%. Don't do GV big, because you want it to be back behind that circle a little bit. That way you'll never see it until it's supposed to be seen. Especially if you're using some transparent colors. Transparent colors, obviously it will shine through all that stuff. But I made it 75% of GV big. So that's 187.5 because it's 75% of 250. Color, I have it set to that burst color right there, that global variable I created, burst color. And if we go over to the animation piece for this entire burst group, I have them set to formulas even though they're operating on a switch. And here's why I'm doing this. I go over to formula, react on a formula, and basically I'm saying if GV switch is on, GV switch is on, that one means it's on, I want to animate it forward, but if it's off, I want to reset, because this is going to keep it from that burst. It burst out, but notice when I close the little button, the burst doesn't show back up. So because it's resetting it back to where it is. That's why you don't see it burst back in. You only see it burst out. So even though we're using switches, you can still use formulas for your animations. I have it scaled in. That's like zooming in. That's what's making it pop out at you. Ease on normal, module center, and then for these codes down here, you know, this is a little bit of grunt work on the first part, but it will save you on the back end when you go back into your globals, and you can adjust these much quicker. So duration, that's going to be the burst speed. So if I tap on that calculator, notice I got GV burst speed, and that's what I had called it back in my globals. Other things inside of here, the amount, that's going to be the burst amount. That's that piece right there from 0 to 100, so we can dynamically change that or quickly change that in our globals. And then we have the delay. So the burst delay, I have it set to 2 in my globals, even though these numbers here might show something different. Notice it says delay is 0, but it's actually going to be a 2. It will obey that number global variable, so don't worry about it if it doesn't show up right there. All right, so that's it for burst. Well, no, we got scale in, we got fade out. Same code there. If GV switch is on, I want to fade it out. Otherwise, I want to reset. So it's going to burst out, and you saw in the animation as it burst out, it faded out as well. So that's what's making it fade out. Otherwise, it's not going to fade back in. It's just going to reset, and when it resets, it's going to be hiding behind that stuff because I have the scale in to reset as well. So you're not going to see it scale back, you're not going to see it fade back because it's going to be hiding back behind all those other circles. I hope that makes sense. Now, to fix all that too, I got to go back and position this in the center. So let's save this, let's go back to the home screen and let's look at this animation again. So when I press, not that, but when I press this, okay, my switch is off. So when the switch is on, the only thing I'm talking about right now is the burst. The burst is going to scale in, which makes it essentially pop out at you, and it's going to fade out. Boom. Did you see those tiny circles? And the reason why they're tiny now is because I added so many circles back inside of where was it? Items, progress, how many sections you can, if I bump this down, if I go back to 10, and if I save this, I go back to my home screen, now you don't see as many circles. So tweak that to your liking. You can even create a global there if you want to, like I have all these other global variables. All right. So what's next? The back and the plus. So the back and the plus, let me position this at the top so we can just talk about it. This is the back and the plus. The items I have inside of here are a big circle. I have it set to its GV big or whatever I had it set to. Paint, I do have a color set to it. That is going to be the back color that I have set. I don't have, okay, I do have a gradient applied to it. What gradient do I have to it? Probably back gradient. You don't have to do all that gradient stuff. That's not really what we're after here. You can kind of tweak that to your liking. And then I have a little plus sign in there, and I have it size adjusted. The plus sign, I do have it set to a line color as well. That way I can kind of keep my plus color the same with my check color because I have it also set to a global variable. But more importantly here, let's go over to animation. Notice I have this one not on a formula. I have it just set on a switch. I have it rotate inverted. I'm using that switch that I created in my globals, the on-off switch. And then rotate inverted, duration, GV speed. Basically that's the rotate speed, and it's set to 4. As you can see, by default I had it set to 4, but you can tweak that in your globals. What else? Nothing else. The amount, I want it to rotate a full 360 degrees, so I'm going to leave that at 100, and I don't have a delay on it. And that's all we have inside of there. So let's press this button and notice it's just rotating. That's all it's doing. So if it's on, it's going to rotate. If it's off, it's going to rotate back because we kind of want to see it go both ways. All right. So when we position this thing back where it should be in the center, you don't see it because I have the check in front of all this stuff. So let's animate it. As you can see, the back and the plus are rotating. All right, and that's it for that one. Let's go over to the check. The check is really the same thing as the plus one, almost. We got a big, its color is set to clear, by the way, because I don't want to see the big circle anymore. The big circle's back on the other layer that we just talked about. So I got its color just set to clear. I just slid it all the way over to the right and made it completely transparent. However, the small, that's going to be this red circle that you see here. So the small, I had it set to 230. Under paint, I have it set to burst color because I want that red color. And that's the same color that I have. I should have mentioned this. If I didn't, I can't remember. But if I go back to my progress, the little circles that were bursting out, I have its color set to burst as well. That way the burst color matches this red color that you see right here. And let's see here. Okay, so I got a font icon. The done is just that check. And then I have its paint set to lines. All right, so making all these globals is what makes this, you can edit these things a lot faster, and I'm going to show you that right here in a second. And underneath animation here, I'm using a global switch. I don't have to use a formula because I want this thing to rotate and scale out both when I cut it on and cut it off. It's going to kind of scale out when it's on. It's going to scale back in when it's off. So global switch, rotate inverted. If we go down here and look at our numbers for duration, I have this one set to speed, just like I had the speed set on the plus circle that I talked about earlier. Anything else? Nope. Rotate 100, full 360 degrees, no delay. What about the scale out? This is where you have to be careful with this one, because when the switch is on, you actually want it to come, you want it to scale in technically, but when the switch is off, scale out really means it's going to go away, so to speak. It's going to scale out 100%. By me having it set to inverted, so therefore it's going to scale back in on us, now scaling out. And inverted allows you to do that. So that's what we want to set there. Now if we set this thing on scale in, you may say, well, I'm going to set this on scale in, look at what it's doing, and if I go to normal, watch what happens. That's not what we want. So we want to put it on scale out. It's going to scale out inverted when the switch is on. Boom, boom. Its speed, GV speed, and do I have anything else? Nope. Amount 100, delay 0. So that's the whole makeup of it. And basically the only other thing I have inside of here is just this. This isn't the switch. It's just telling me my switch is off. 0 means off. 1 means on. And all I'm doing there is just I have a little text item to kind of tell me where my switch is. Right now my switch, it says it's on because it's a 1, 0. It will be off. And one thing to mention before we jump into the globals, what am I truly touching to make all this happen? I'm actually touching the back and plus group. And the reason why I want to emphasize the touch to you, if I touch it, let's see if it's going to happen. So I touch it, it animates, and even though you don't really see the back and plus right now, it's still visible. All I'm doing is making that thing rotate, so it's still there. I want to apply the touch to that one. So the back and plus group, which is what you see right here, if I go over to touch, we're going to toggle that global switch that we called switch. And you don't want to apply the touch to the check group. The check group is this one right here. And since that thing is actually disappearing on us, you know, it's scaling out on us, the inverted thing I just talked about, we don't want to apply the touch to that, because when we can't see it, we're not going to be able to touch it because it's truly like gone, it's vanished. Whereas this guy back here is, yes, behind some stuff, but it's still what we want to apply the touch to. So I hope that makes sense there. Now if we go in here and tweak a few things inside of our globals, first of all, if we make this circle big, we can make this is the other circle. So now you can see how the big and the small are working together. Now if I make this too small, watch what happens. You can see the burst inside of it. So notice now you can see that burst inside of there, and I don't want that. So I'm going to make that small, almost up about the same size as my big. So you get that little ring around it. Now we'd have to obviously adjust the check there. I didn't create a global for that, but you can make the check a lot bigger if you'd like. But now when we animate this, we're probably not going, okay, we can still see the burst as well. Now, what about speed? Maybe you want the speed to be a little bit faster. So let's see what happens now. Notice it spins faster. That's what I was talking about, the rotate speed. Burst amount, how much do we want it to burst out? Maybe we want it to burst out a whole lot. Let's see what happens. See that? You see how that burst is going out a lot further? The burst delay, do we want it to be delayed some? The only thing about this, whatever you set your burst delay to, it's probably a good idea to set your burst fade delay the same thing. So keep those two. You could create one global. And now notice it's delayed a little bit more. We can undelay it, so basically we can have no delay, but yeah, let's do this. Let's set our delays down to 0. And let's see what happens. So now you're just like seeing an instantaneous animation on that. And then you got the fade speed. So if you want it to fade faster, now watch, it's going to fade out a lot quicker. See that? Whereas if you want it to fade slower, we can drag it on up, and now watch, you're going to pretty much see no fade. It just scales out because the burst amount is so high. See all this stuff? See how these things quickly work together? And by you creating all those globals, you can tweak it quicker inside of here versus going inside of each individual element that we created back there. But yeah, there you have it. I'm going to back out of this because I like the way it was before. And yeah, that's how you can create a material style animation, a little checkbox, whether it be when you get a notification or whatever. And that's it for this video. Hope it helped.